happy top of the morning to you. And the question, I think, as we get going, and Troy Renck joins us from the Denver Post, is it a good morning? Is it a good morning? We'll talk about it in a lot of context this morning. First of all, Thursday night football, no good. Just no good. I'm painting with a broad brush. We'll get to it. New quarterback, new play caller. But wait a minute, we are in week 11 of college football. That's coming up in the second segment, and Moneyball comes to Colorado. With that, it's time for the lead.
The lead is presented by Smokin' Dave's Barbecue. It is not just the best barbecue in town, it's one of the best restaurants in town. You can find Smokin' Dave's Barbecue in Denver, Lyons, Longmont, Estes Park, and Greeley.
We start off with our buddy Troy Renck today, and you and I have been, you for longer than me, but you and I together for the last 10 years have been part of seeing some of the worst offensive performances maybe in Denver Broncos history. And I never thought that it would be possible to add to that list, but we may have seen the worst last night. There's a lot of reasons why. I'm ready to concede that the Thursday night experiment is a bad one. Great. We get to see Kirk Herbstreit and his pooch on Thursday night with Al Michaels and on Prime TV. Great. We get all of that. That's entertaining in its own right. And it's football, by God. We've got to have football on Thursday, Sunday afternoon, Sunday night, Monday night. It's the nature of the beast. I get it. But Troy, come on, man. We saw two teams that were clearly not ready to play football by any stretch. You worry about injuries in games like this. That's on one level. On the other level, it was like I've had teeth extractions that were more comfortable than watching that game last night.
Yeah, I mean, it's just shocking that we have a victory Friday for Broncos country. They're 8-2, and my email and DMs on social media are just filled with frustrated Broncos country fans. They're just beside themselves at how poor this offense looks. And if we could start with Bo Nix, there's been real regression at times this season. He looks like, as you and I know from our baseball background, a pitcher whose mechanics are off. He's rushing. He's not setting his feet. His arm slot's not consistent. He's feeling pressure that's not there. He's missing wide open throws. So for everyone that wants to blame Sean Payton, and he's part of it, Bo Nix is missing open throws and leaving yardage on the field. They cannot get first downs. Like, they didn't get a first down until 5:45 left in the first half. Yeah. But to your point on how it was one of the ugliest games, the worst game I've seen since being back on the Broncos beat in 2014 was the Thursday night loss to the Colts when Russell Wilson challenged Stephon Gilmore with a pass to Tyree Cleveland, who had never caught a pass, and then missed KJ Hamler waving to him wide open in the end zone. They lost that game. This is second place. And the historical data supports it. Bruce, they said on KOA last night, it's the first time they've had two teams have 10 first downs or fewer in the same Broncos game since 1971, when the Broncos beat the Bears 6-3. It is just, it's not sustainable to win this way. They had 220 yards of offense. They can't stay on the field. I mean, and now they've won. They've trailed in every game. They've trailed in every game this season. They've won 8 of those. The other teams that have trailed in 9 games this season, because the Broncos are at 10, their combined record is they have 9 wins together, the other 5 teams. And you're like the Titans, the Saints, they're all terrible teams.
Yeah.
So it's an anomaly. This is not sustainable. And that's the frustration, because nationally it was like, why is everyone complaining they're 8-2? And it's like, well, you can see this is a championship caliber defense, but they're not functional offensively. And now they throw out this clunker right before the Chiefs, who are coming off a bye when Andy reached 22-4 after a bye. You're like, man, you can't play like this, Bruce. You can't play like this and beat good teams. They're 8-2. They deserve that. That's their record. But what we're seeing offensively has gone from confusing to concerning.
Yeah, no question about it. And you used a term that let's delve into it a little bit. Can't stay on the field. People have a tendency to think about this too much of as an offensive problem, but it's an offensive defensive team problem, because when you can't when you can't stay on the field as an offense, that means your defense is on the field all the time.
Right.
And at some point, you're going to have to pay the piper for that at some point. Never mind about, well, we need to try to get the offense in rhythm. We've got to run the ball more. Whatever the answers that you may fill in the blank with, the bottom line is you cannot continue to depend on this defense the way that you're depending on it, just from a pragmatic standpoint of staying healthy, staying well, staying functional. These are some of the things that they're starting to deal with. Let's get back to Bo Nix, because this is a fundamental thing, and you're absolutely right. It's his footwork. He does seem like he's jumpy in the pocket, which is interesting because I never felt that way with him, especially in the second half of last year. Everything really came into being well. Now, people didn't have a lot of film on Bo Nix and all of these things. We understand that he is a much more understood quarterback now by opposing defenses. What do you think? What do you think the main challenge here is? Because it looks to me like Bo's trying to do too much on every single play.
Yeah, he's getting trapped where he's trying to do too much. And then on other times, he's so tentative when there's yards in front of him to run, wide open swaths, and he doesn't take that. Like, he's just this, Bruce, there's the paralysis by analysis, but when you think, you think, sometimes just take off and be an athlete. And so he doesn't do that. And then sometimes it's like you need to get him into rhythm, and he just can't seem to figure it out. Like the interception against the Cowboys, he bounced back from. Last night, he never felt like he was in rhythm. And we did see this version of Bo Nix. It was the first 4 games last year.
Right.
The final 12, 13 games, he was really good. And that's why we expected him to take that next step. Well, defenses are certainly attacking him differently, making him uncomfortable, making him throw the ball downfield. And this year, more than any other time in his career, he cannot connect on a deep ball or anything over 20 yards to save his life. I think over 15 or 20 yards he and Franklin now in the season are 2 for 17. Some of it's not close, but this is my new theory. And some of it's my baseball background, but Bo Nix is a rhythm passer, and he's best in up-tempo. Well, obviously you can't stay in up-tempo in the NFL or your defense will get gassed. They still need to mix more of that in. But this was the first time basically in Bo Nix's life he took time off after a season, because he went right from Oregon to the combine to mini camp, never stopped. And he needed a break. But sometimes you find out as a professional athlete how long you can be off. And if we're being honest, and I wrote about this in the summer, he never looked great in training camp.
No.
He only had 3 or 4 days. You're like, oh, yeah, there's the Bo Nix.
You're right.
He just didn't look right in training camp. He was out of rhythm, out of sync. And you're like, well, they're not playing together. It's their first team. But he never stacked days together. And then what saved this season are fourth quarters. That's it. Because if you go back to that Jets game, that's 3 terrible. Well, you go back to the Eagles game, 3 terrible quarters of football. You go back to the Jets game, 3 terrible quarters of football. The Giants game, 3 historically bad quarters of football. Then you finally get the Cowboys game. You're like, okay. And then last night, you could say 4 bad quarters of football.
Yeah.
That he's right in the middle of it. So he's part of it. He's not all of it. That's why I think most of us were begging for them to get more offensive weapons in the offseason. That R.J. Harvey and Troy Franklin are nice pieces. But as you're trying to get to a Super Bowl, they're a year away, those 2 young guys for me. So that's part of it. They have yet to figure out how to use the tight end. I thought that was going to be his safety net this year. They're going to defend him differently. Well, he's got a tight end now. He's going to throw these little 7-yard spot routes, and he's just going to move the chain. Evan Ingram, unless the play is called specifically for him, never gets the ball. Like, there's just things that are going on. And Sean Payton, God bless him, because his entire legacy here is attached to that pick. I get it. He provides cover for Bo Nix in a way that is so strange I mean, Bo, by any statistical measure, played horrible last night.
Right.
And Sean's just like, we won, we're 8-2. It'll be a few things to correct. Bo finally acknowledged, because he had to, like, they're getting booed off their own field, that, hey, I got to play better. And it's not play better. You got to play significantly better against the Chiefs, the Packers, the Chargers, because everything's in front of them to win the division. If they beat the Chiefs Sunday, they're winning the division. It's over. And I watched that team last night, Bruce, and I'm like, and I do think, and it's going to sound like an excuse, not a reason, I get it. The schedule has really screwed
No
them.
question.
They needed the bye after London. I think if they ever do this again, you've got to take that bye, because I know from talking to some guys in the locker room, they're like, holy crap. It just feels like we're running a marathon uphill. They're gassed. And it was windy last night, but the schedule has put them in a spot to where poor play, penalties, and they're just they look like a team that's mentally and physically gassed from the last month.
Where's the culpability for Sean Payton at this point? I thought last night he did not call a very good game. I still am questioning the receiver pass on 3rd and 1 from your own 38 when you've been running the ball 6 yards a carry on that very drive. I mean, I know he wanted to go for the big hit on 3rd down with the idea that he would have only 1 yard to pick up on 4th down. Then they end up getting out of field goal range, and the field gets flipped because Lutz is nowhere close on the field goal. There were so many opportunities for the Raiders to win this game or to take this game over or to extend this game. It's scary. But where was the culpability last night? And basically in this stretch of games for Sean Payton in the way he's calling or perhaps not calling games?
Well, where I would blame him specifically is they just don't run the ball enough.
Right.
I mean, that's really it, because he's dialing up plays in the pass game that should work. So I mean, if I had to, put an assessment on it, a percentage, I'd say, it's Nick's 60%, Sean Payton 40%. Yeah. But Sean calls the plays, and the idea that we look up at every halftime, Bruce, and you've been there, I've been there with you, and J.K. Dobbins has 4 carries, 5 carries, and you're just like, what is going on? And it's just, for me, I've said this on my podcast, I've said it to anyone who'll listen, Sean Payton has a gravitational pull to throw the football. He sees the short passing game as his running game.
Yep.
But they don't block well on those receiver screens. They don't get positive yards. Like I've said, like the Tyler Bidet screen, they need to take out of the playbook, bury it under the field house, and never speak of it again. But they don't block well on those plays. And so you could get away with Dobbins at 5 carries if you had a bunch of dump down, check downs to the backs that are essentially functioning as a run game. But what's fascinating about this is I know Payton sees on the whiteboard why these plays should work. And then he gets to the point where he can't help himself. He's like, I've got to pass. No, you don't. Just run the damn ball. Dobbins, again, was their best offensive player by far. And then he just goes away from him from long stretches and empty backfield, shotgun, 3 wide. You're just like, Sean, just trust your eyes. Forget the damn play sheet. Trust what you're watching. And that's what Mike Shanahan did well. I covered him. He was the best at a time that the league was different, but at creating mismatches. And he had Hall of Famers, Shark, Davis, Elway, Gary Zimmerman, the best fullback, Howard Griffin. I mean, they had way more weapons. But Mike Shanahan was really good at, you want to play one man at the safety in the box? We're going to run it at you. We'll do it 10 straight times until you change. Like, he would watch the game. What are we doing well? Keep doing it. Sean's like, 7-yard run, 3-yard run, pass.
Yeah.
Just stop. And he keeps acting like Drew Brees is Bo Nix and Bo Nix is Drew Brees. It's like he's coaching the team he used to have, not the one he does have. Bo is not Drew. He's not. Stop. Just run the ball until they stop you. And that's how you beat the Chiefs, frankly. They're not great against the run, and they can't run the ball. So you could still beat them. There's a formula to beat them, but you can't do it with Bo throwing 35 times. Like, it's not going to work. So Sean deserves blame. And for me, it just goes central to the blame with Sean is run the damn ball. Run the damn ball.
Yeah, because I think you can do it even with the other team knowing about it and still make them stop you. There are some times that you can impose your will. We've talked about this offensive front, and the metrics prove it out. They win and run in their run rates. They're great in protection. They do things that allow you to win football games if you allow them to do it. It feels like too much is being put on Bo Nix at this particular point. And I think that he can take a lot. Yeah. He's proven that, but I think that there's probably too much been put on Bo Nix right now. And and the one thing that I agree, he dials up plays in the passing game every single week that I say, damn, that is just cool. That's a really good play. It's modeled well. You can see the thought that's gone into it. It makes perfect sense. It should work. But for whatever reason right now, it's not working. Lessen the load on Bo to make a good play or a great play on every single play. I mean, when he's lining up naked in the backfield and he's got nothing back, he's got to make a play, period. It's on him to make a play. And at this point, it's just not happening.
Well, why doesn't he do the bootleg? Why don't run play action? That's the thing. You run the ball well. Run play action with the naked boot that gives him the run pass option. Create one side reads. Get him into a rhythm. It's just he can handle the Drew Brees part mentally, but it's slowing him down physically. It's like this kid who's so smart, and Sean just keeps feeding him because he can digest it, Bruce. But it's slowing him down physically because his mind is just constantly cranking, and it's not allowing him to be an athlete. In a lot of games, he's one of the best athletes on the field, and we're not seeing that. And that's where, if I'm looking at the film this weekend, I'm on the Broncos, we got to simplify it, get him in rhythm at times. If we sense he's getting out of rhythm, it's like the pitcher, they go, okay, throw the change up to get your mechanics back in order.
Right.
Throw the slants, not the dumbass screens. Throw a few slants, run a few plays, no huddle, and then let's run, and play action to create wide open receivers for the kid, to allow him just to be an athlete and not look at the defense and try to play calculus every time they're in an empty set. It's just not fair to him right now with the way he's playing. Mentally, he can handle it. It's slowing him down physically, in my opinion.
I know he had one last night designed run play for him, but 3, 4 a game, something like that. Maybe design something out of the RPOs that gets him out in space and allows him to use his athleticism. Hell, it won them a game the week before down in Houston.
But that was at the very last drive.
Right.
3 carries for 34 yards. He should be every week around 40 yards rushing. Yeah. And I say that because he never takes big hits. It would be different if every time he's in open field, you're like, oh my God, he can't slide. He's going to get hurt. When's the last time he took a big hit in open space? I don't know if he has, other than when he dropped the shoulder in preseason, his rookie year against a former high school teammate or a former high school opponent, and like one other time. He protects himself. So tell him on the bootleg, get out there and take off.
Yeah.
Run. There's no shame in that. And it's in his skill set. The kid was really, really good at running. And they just want to forget it and make him Drew Brees. And it's just like, it's not working like enough. And you can't, even miracles have expiration dates, Bruce. This idea you're going to win late. It's the equivalent of every game as a baseball team. We're going to win 1-0. And eventually your pitching runs out of gas and you go on like a 5-game losing streak and you lose 5-1, 6-2, because you can't keep doing it this way. It's not sustainable. Should Broncos country love 8-2 after the last 7-8 years? Of course. But Broncos country has 3 Super Bowls. They know what it looks like when you're going to play for a Super Bowl, and this isn't it. And then people say, well, 15, it was like this. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. They weren't great offensively that year. I covered it.
Right.
They didn't throw out games like this. And this is the 4th game they've had like this. The Broncos had a couple that year at Chicago, the second half at Pittsburgh that year when they lost. but they didn't throw out games like this every other week. Like, come on now. Go back and watch the YouTube highlights of 15. It wasn't this bad.
You say there's no expiration date for miracles. There may be expiration dates for Miracle Whip. It spoils when left too long in the refrigerator. All right, Troy, I'll throw some numbers at you because I'm intrigued by this Bo Nix thing, because it's not Bo Nix. It's the marriage of Sean Payton and Bo Nix. And I'll use that term for lack of anything else. But Bo Nix is 18-9 now as a starting quarterback in the NFL. Regular season, 18-10 if you want to throw in the playoff game. That's a remarkable number for a player that has made 28 starts now in the National Football League. So there are some contradiction in terms based on what we're seeing right now and the results. So we've talked about how you reconcile those things, because you talk about correctly the sustainability or the insustainability of the way that they're doing it right now. They are at a pivot point now, because now you're playing the Chiefs, you're playing the Packers, you're playing the Chargers, you're going on the road to Washington, not going to have their quarterback, but that'll be a tougher out. All of a sudden now you are in a position where you have the division in front of you, and you have a chance to put a stranglehold on the division, but you still don't know who you are offensively. And special teams continue to be the wildest swing of any unit I've ever seen. They did make great plays at opportune times last night, but my God, what in the hell was the rest of it? And Jeremy Crawshaw, I was worried. I was looking for a couch somewhere when I got into the locker room last night, thinking he probably would be on it with Sigmund Freud. And Sean is describing it as, well, it's the way you drop the ball. I get it. Drop the ball. Hell, he's shanking things 30 yards down the field. Troy, I don't know what to make of this team that is 8-2 and has earned every bit of it. They've earned the 8-2. I bristle at people that talk about, well, it's a lucky team, or they're not playing a good schedule. They're playing the schedule that is in front of them. And luck in the NFL plays very, very little of things. Yes, you don't want to win games scoring 33 points in the last 10 minutes of a football game to win. I get it. But in terms of demonstrated ability, this is a football team that on some level deserves the 8-2 start. But there are so many loose ends that are out there.
Yeah, it's hard to reconcile the record with what our eyes are telling us.
Right.
That's the hard part. Is you see the record. If you just woke up and you had spent the last few months in a spider cave, and you're like, Broncos are 8-2, and they're 6-2 in one-score games, Bruce, after going 1-6 last year, you'd be like, oh my God, they've solved it. But the eye test tells us that, holy crap, do they have issues? And like you said, the special teams last night, they finally addressed some of their concerns.
They did.
And at one point, Jeremy Crawshaw punted a ball off his ankle.
Ankle.
And I watched the state championship last year. I covered the 4A state championship last year in high school. That's what it reminded me every time he was punting. I was like, is this ball going into the stands? Is it going straight? And the kid's got an amazing leg. And
yes,
he's been the least of their problems. That's what's funny in a sarcastic way, is they've had so many special teams problems, including last week with a muff punt, a late hit by your long snapper on a thing, a blocked field goal. It's like the Gordie Howe hat trick on special teams.
Right.
And then they clean up a lot of that. And then the punter looks like he's literally never done it before. Like you just handed out uniforms in the parking lot and you said, you get to punt tonight. And he figured it out, but he had a stretch there of 4 punts where 3 were just absolute shankopotamus. And then they make up for it with the blocked field goal by Skinner. And as I wrote my call, I'm like, okay, Darren Rizzi can now put the mirrors back in his house. Like he can at least have a morsel of pride and look himself in the mirror. He finally took accountability this week because he was aspiring no confidence. Every week, it sounded way more like excuses from him, and especially over the Mims thing. And the offense suffers because of his decision not to pull out Mims in that Cowboys game and get him hurt. That's on Rizzi. I don't want to hear about, but they called the wrong guy. You're the coach. Tap him on the shoulder and tell him he's out. They were a little better in a lot of ways, and then Crawshaw goes off the rails. And typically, these things cost you games. Yeah. But they had a point where the Raiders, Bruce, 7 consecutive drives without a first down.
7.
Then the Broncos have the most sacks through whatever, it's 10 games now since the 1989 Vikings. Right. So everyone asks, how are they doing it? Because they're playing historically great defensively. They've had a run of bad teams, but they're playing historically great defensively to make up for what's between awful, confounding, confusing, long stretches of offense and special teams. They just keep them in the game and then finally say, go make a play. Go make a play or two. The defense, if you were like looking at this bar graph, how many plays do we need our defense to make to win the game? 43. Offense, you need 3. Special teams, 1. Like this, it's just this imbalance that's so crazy. And now you're going to play Mahomes.
Yeah.
And so to ask the defense to hold him to like 14, 17 points, it's just not realistic.
No.
Could it happen? Of course it could. But it's just not realistic. You're going to beat the Chiefs 17-14, 13-10. It's just not. And that's what we all see is like, we get it. They're 8-2. And there's way worse places to be. They could easily be 4-6 or 5-5 talking about these problems. But they're real problems. They're just the eye test. What our eyes are telling us, they're not lying, because every time we feel like it can't be that bad, I can give you a statistic to say, yes, it's that bad offensively. It's that bad on special teams.
All right, the Chiefs are up next, and fortunately for the Broncos, they are going to get 10 days here in what we call the mini bye, just one game in their next 23. The bad news is Andy Reid's 22-4 after the bye, but we'll get to that at some other point. A break right now. When we come back, see you with a new quarterback and a new play caller, and we're 10 or 11 weeks into the season. Am I missing something? And Moneyball comes to Colorado. A couple of baseball guys will get to gnaw on what the Rockies are doing right now to move this wreck forward. We're back in a minute.
Ever wondered where city and county fleet vehicles go when they retire? Now's your chance to find out and score big. Imagine driving away with a great deal on a reliable vehicle. For over 45 years, Roller Auction has been the trusted source for government fleet vehicles and equipment. Trucks, SUVs, sedans, and more, all selling to the highest bidder. Don't miss out. Visit roller.bid/hot takes to get auction updates today. Your next vehicle could be just a click away.
Everyone has their favorite barbecue spot. Mine, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew. My favorites, slowly smoked ribs, smoked corned beef Reuben, smoked meatloaf with a portobello balsamic cream sauce. And don't forget about Smokin' Dave's 16-hour smoked brisket and pork with one of their 4 homemade barbecue sauces. Great sides, you bet. Barbecue beans made with pork and brisket and their southern corn bake. Man, you gotta try it. Plus, they have amazing non-barbecue entrees on the menu. Go where I go, Smokin' Dave's Barbecue and Brew in North Denver.
Ferguson's Heating and Cooling is the best in Denver, and their customers agree. Ferguson's has 165 5-star Google reviews, and here's one from Betsy. Highly professional, prompt, and honest. I switched to Ferguson's when I became aware my former company was trying to sell me a whole new system I didn't need. Ferguson's is an honest, working, family-owned business that'll give you a fair price, the highest quality parts and equipment, and they always show up on time. You can trust the Ferguson family like you trust your own family. Go to fergusonsheatingandcooling.com.
Everyone has their favorite sports bar. Mine, the Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch, DTC, and now in Parker. All their locations are everything a sports bar should be. An upscale menu with 12 different burgers, outstanding wings, and my favorite, the Philly cheesesteak egg rolls. They've got every game on the NFL Sunday Ticket, MLB Extra Innings, NHL Center Ice, NBA League Pass, plus soccer, rugby, and UFC. Sportsbook, great hangout bar, great for private parties. The Sportsbook Bar and Grill in Highlands Ranch, DTC, and now in Parker. They are the sports bar.
Here's another great promotion from Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos in Blackhawk. On December 13th, it's their annual holiday auction for a pair of Super Bowl tickets, tools, jewelry, electronics, toys, and kitchen appliances. Earn auction currency with every locked-up jackpot, players' points, or a daily cash drawing. There's so many ways to earn currency, and the more you play, the more you'll be able to bid and win what you want at their auction. So get up to Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos and start stacking your auction currency today.
All right, we are back with our buddy Troy Renck from the Denver Post. You can check out his podcast, read him at the Denver Post. He's everywhere. He should be. He's one of the really insightful guys out there in sports. Troy, let's get a little into CU before we get into the Rockies and where they're going with Paul DePodesta. Juju Lewis is going to make his debut as the starting quarterback this weekend. Makes sense to me. You got to know what you have. They're in an interesting position at 3-6 right now with a new quarterback, essentially a new play caller, and we didn't find that out until I guess earlier this week that Schumer was no longer calling the offense, which is I don't know why he was allowed to call this offense as long as he was, but that's an argument for another day. From an overarching standpoint, how do you view where we are in year 3 with Coach Prime and this program as they head to West Virginia, where they are 6.5-point underdogs and are on the precipice of a 3-7 start this season?
Yeah, it's concerning because basically the 1 year last year looks like an aberration.
Right.
This year looks very similar to his first year. You don't have Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter to cover for, the camouflage, all the blemishes like you need. You need Revlon. You need something because there's and what the bigger issue for me is this. Deion Sanders is a great recruiter. I would say that great recruiter of skill position players.
Yeah.
The problems that have plagued this program since he took over remain. They're terrible on the O-line, terrible on the D-line. Any team that shows a morsel of physicality kicks their ass, and they do it on the ground. I think they've allowed more than 200 yards rushing like 10 times during Deion's tenure. They can't stop teams that are physical. That's been a problem since his first day here, and it's pronounced and amplified by the fact they don't have a great offense anymore. Luckily, when I wrote a column last week saying this is on Deion to fix, I didn't blame Shermer specifically because it's on brand for him to play the way they did. And he wasn't even the one calling the plays. But they've got a celebrity-type coaching staff.
Yep.
And the issues on the O-line and D-line remain. So when I look at it, it's like, yeah, people are coming to the games. He's brought attention. He's put them on a national platform. But it feels like it's like burn hot, burn fast, burn out. Like it's not. When I was at that Arizona game last week, Bruce, the end of that game was very much similar to the Carl Durrell regime. Getting mocked by your own fans, 3/4 of the stadium gone. Then they left at halftime after Ralphie ran. Well, they finally got that right. This girl, she gets after it. After she ran, the stadium basically half cleared out. They wanted to clear. So these are real issues. And it was like, well, he's rebuilding. And I could agree if it was a stair step. There's nothing when you look at the recruiting class coming up and how they're recruiting that suggests you're going to be able to address some of these issues. And because, Bruce, you've covered college sports way longer than I have, and I don't cover them regularly, but the college football has become the NFL now,
right?
With NIL and the money. So you can't – it's not that you just can't miss on players. That's part of it. If you overpay a player and he stinks, that screws you up. You can't miss on your coaches and your schemes. And when you watch CU, what is it they do well? Like we talked about the Broncos, like what is it the Buffs do well? Last year it was like, holy crap, what they do well is like everything's going wrong. Throw to Travis Hunter, make a play offensive. They don't do anything well right now. That's my bigger concern. And everyone's, it's a rebuilding. Right, but how is it going to be different if you don't have better offensive linemen? Jordan Seaton's regressed this year. He doesn't look like a first-round pick to me, and he spends half his time arguing with his teammates.
Right.
So there's just stuff that goes on that's just, it tells me there's a dysfunction behind the scenes that's not healthy. And I'm worried that Deion, I think, will stay one more. I think he'd stay one more year to see if he can fix this. But listen, the way I could be wrong, but Juju Lewis is the guy. And the reason he wasn't the guy earlier was, why didn't he play? He wasn't ready physically.
No.
You saw him. He looks like he weighed 175. I watched him in high school on ESPN. I know he has a 5-star arm. The kid's not physically ready. Guys who skip and reclassify are Cooper Flagg and Bryce Harper. They're physically older looking body types. Bryce Harper looked 22 when he was 15. Juju Lewis looks like a guy who just turned 18. Like, he looks young. So we'll see. And then here's the other thing, Bruce, what do you do? And I don't even know that it matters, because who knows if he'd stay at CU. But if he plays the remainder of these games, the redshirt year's burned.
Yep, it's gone.
Does that even matter? If
Right.
like, we're going to be gone after his junior year to the draft anyway, I'm like, let's pump the brakes on that.
Yeah.
He's got to get way better physically. Take out the performance part. If you think that's an NFL body type, you need to get Red Zone on part of your cable package.
Where is this fan base, do you think, with this program right now?
Well, the fans of Deion are still in his corner.
Right.
And I get that. And I understand why. He's been given this opportunity. They love the fact that he does it differently, the paradigm shift. And a lot of schools do what he does now, which is reinvent themselves every year.
Absolutely.
The problem is they're better at it than he is because they have more money. And they address multiple concerns. It's like, we want a D lineman, the best center, the best tech. Deion's ability is to recruit receivers, quarterbacks, corners. Like, it's a very small select group. But the Deion fans have not changed based on my DMs, my mentions. They rip me every time I rip him. Why do you hate Deion? Give him a chance. Remember how bad it was? I get all that. The problem is, once you pay him $11 million a year, the expectation, Bruce, is a bowl game, even a shitty bowl game.
Yeah.
You've got to go to a bowl. You can't give your coach a 5-year, $54 million contract and go 4-8, and in 5 of those losses look like you've never played football before.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. If they were losing 23-20, they're like, oh, they're right there. They've been outscored 81-7 in the first half of the last 2 games.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened during the bye week, but holy crap. They came back and looked like they haven't been coached, and you have guys making business decisions.
Yeah.
Deion says they're not checking out. I saw some guys on that Saturday night that were 100% checked out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where am I? The fans, the hardcore fans are like fearful that, holy crap, this was a house of cards. It was great, but it's, again, burn fast, burn bright, burn out, where the fans of Deion are going to remain in his corner. It's reaching an inflection point that this offseason, if he doesn't change or bring in better people around him, and his health is a concern, that's real.
Yeah.
But he's got to bring in like veteran college coaches, but why would they come here if they're not sure how long they're going to be here?
Yeah.
That's the problem. He ends up getting coaches like Shermer that nobody wants, or you get guys who are incredibly young who've never done it. That's hard in college football when parents want to see stability and proof of purchase. Like, if my kid goes here, he's going to go to the NFL. And I mean, it's just tenuous is the word I would use.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Want to remind you, there's another great promotion coming up from Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos in Blackhawk on December 13th. It's their annual holiday auction for a pair of Super Bowl tickets, tools, jewelry, electronics, toys, and kitchen appliances. Earn auction currency with every locked-up jackpot, players' points, or a daily cash drawing. All sounds good to me. There are so many ways to earn currency, and the more you play, you'll be able to bid and win and what you want to get at that auction. So get up to Sasquatch and Wildcard Casinos and start building your auction currency today. All right, I would be remiss if I didn't have you for the last few minutes of the show and we couldn't get to a little bit of the Rockies. Paul Paul DePodesta takes over now as the head of baseball operations, the general manager, whatever you want to call him. Moneyball essentially comes to the Rockies. And some of my folks were asking me about it yesterday. And I said, well, at the very least, and I'm not sure where I am with DePodesta, to be really honest with you, and we can talk about that in a second. At the very least, one would think that analytics are finally coming to the Rocky Mountains. Now, it's about 10, 12 years after everyone else has done this. And this is part of the problem with being the Colorado Rockies, amongst other things. But at the very least, starting from a baseline, doesn't this make them a better franchise, or at least give them a better place to start the very long road back to relevancy, which I think is going to take another 5 years?
What's so strange about this, I know Paul DePodesta. I knew him pretty well when he was at Oakland with Billy Beane.
Right.
I talked with him, not fairly regularly, but enough to where I knew him when I was covering baseball daily. Here, I told someone this last night. Any other organization makes this hire, it's the worst hire in the history of the franchise. The Rockies make it, and you're like, this is a pretty good hire. I have an image of Dick Monfort going through Netflix and falling on Moneyball and going, we should get that guy.
We need that guy.
That it came out 20 years ago, and then them interviewing him and having not Jonah Hill showing up and wondering if they've got the right guy. Like, everything they do is like, it can't just be bad. It can't be weird. It's got to be historically weird and cringy. Everything about this process is concerning me because we were told Walker Monfort's going to be the point man. It definitely doesn't look like that. I know when Ottavino talked to Dick Monfort, and Ottavino kind of inserted himself in the process. I like Adam, but it was pretty clear he's trying to get his name out there. He inserted himself into the process. Dick Monfort interviewed him, and that was the primary guy. That's concerning to me. Paul DePodesta, I will say this, incredibly bright guy, Harvard guy, very smart. But when he left baseball in 15, 16, all the technology these teams used to create an edge didn't even exist. Like Hawkeye and all the videos, because my son does a lot of this in working for the Giants. He works with this technology. I set this image of DePodesta walking into Coors Field, and it might even be today for a press conference, where it's like, I left in 2015. I show up at the Rockies and look around at their laptops and take out my flip phone. It's like, nothing's changed. I feel real comfortable here because the Rockies are legitimately, as you said, like a decade behind everyone else. They put a pitching lab in Scottsdale begrudgingly by Dick Monfort. And he's like, oh, I don't know why we need him. And I was like, I told him, this is when he used to speak to me a year and a half ago, it's almost 2 years ago. College programs have had this for like 5 years.
Sure.
Like, you are so far behind the curve. They just don't understand, and Dick Monfort specifically, the infrastructure of how baseball teams succeed, on why having a better AA hitting coach can help you in the big leagues, on why having the best area scout can help you in the big leagues. Dick sees everything as ROI, return on investment. So when I build a party deck, I can watch him build it with my eyes, and I can see the dollar signs. He doesn't understand why having a great pitching coach in Class A matters, because he doesn't see it. It's all part of this puzzle, and he doesn't get it. And the people around him are yes men. They don't get it. DePodesta, if he's allowed to do his job, could help. Anything's an upgrade over Bill Schmidt and Greg Fiesel, the two worst at their job in baseball. But is Paul going to be allowed to hire a GM and assistant GM? Everything I'm hearing is they need to legitimately bring in 15 to 20 new people.
Yeah.
I'm being told that they're not going to be able to bring in a bunch of people because of the looming work stoppage after this season. They don't want a huge bloated payroll. And Dick Monfort's going to be a hawk in the CBA talking about limiting front office positions. But again, anyone else makes this hire, and you hire a guy from the Browns whose record while he was there was 56 and 96 and 1, would be laughed hysterically at. The Rockies do it, and you're like, well, at least he's been successful somewhere else. At least he's a smart guy. Like, it's just, the bar is so low for them that it's comical. But I'm not rooting against it. after all of this, I still have my concerns that Dick's going to get out of the way. And if he doesn't, it doesn't matter what Paul does. It really doesn't. Paul's not going to succeed unless Dick Monfort allows him to operate with independence and autonomy.
Well said, as it always is. Troy, where do people find the podcast, and who are the fine people that allow you to bring it to us?
Yeah, Nate Lundy of Mile High Sports and Danny Bailey, the producer, are the best. I'll have a pod on as we go off here a little bit later in the morning. I'll do my Broncos pod, rehashing some of the same points. You can find my stuff at denverpost.com/sports. Columnist. My analogy and my lead of my game story is about Thunder taking a dump on the 5-yard line. And it wasn't disgusting. It was foreshadowing, Bruce. It was foreshadowing.
Kept everyone warm on a otherwise cold night. So, all right, Troy, have a good one, my friend. We appreciate it and enjoy it, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday.